When Detective Jonathan Reeves first saw the case, he thought it was just another robbery. But the deeper he delved into the materials, the more the story seemed not just strange, but completely inexplicable. The case began in the little town of Salem Creek, Oregon. The night was cold and the streets were deserted. The Hewitt family, owners of an old antique store, were closing the cash register. The time was around midnight when Jessica Hewitt heard a strange sound, as if someone was scratching the glass of the window. Turning on the outside lights, she looked outside. No one. But 5 minutes later, 3 masked men burst into the store. They didn't say a word. Their movements were quick and coordinated, as if they'd rehearsed this moment 100 times. The safe was broken into in seconds, and the CCTV cameras recorded nothing, just the odd noise of interference. When the police arrived, there was no trace of it, except for one detail. There was an old key lying on the floor, near the shop window, but it didn't belong to the Hewitt family. Jonathan Reeves, a detective with over 20 years of experience, was called to a crime scene. The key immediately attracted his attention. It looked antique, covered in a green patina, as if it had just been dug out of the ground. It was engraved with strange symbols that looked like runes. Jonathan took the key to the station for examination, but the results only added to the mystery. The metal from which the key was made was unidentifiable. Chemical analysis showed it to be an alloy that didn't exist in nature. Something's not right here, Jonathan muttered. Meanwhile, strange things began to happen in the city. Another robbery, this time at a bank. The scenario was the same. The cameras recorded nothing useful, and an antique key was once again found at the crime scene. Locals began whispering about the ghost robbers. There was a legend in the town that in the early 19th century, a gang of criminals operated in these parts. They stole treasure and hid in the woods using underground tunnels. It was said that they made a deal with a dark force to remain elusive, but one day something went wrong and the gang disappeared, leaving behind only the keys to their hiding places. Jonathan was not a superstitious man, but the threads of this story intrigued him. He began looking for a connection between the robberies and the legend. Each key found at the crime scenes had unique symbols, but where did they lead? The abandoned house. The investigation led Jonathan to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. The house was rumored to belong to the leader of the same gang. Its walls were covered in faded paint, and its windows were gaping empty. When Jonathan stepped inside, he felt a strange chill, as if something was watching him. In the basement of the house, he found an old chest. The lock was decorated with the same runes as the keys. Jonathan inserted one of the keys and the lock clicked. Inside were maps, diaries, and strange metal objects that looked like parts of machinery. But as soon as he touched the diary, strange noises began in the house. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hallways, though the house was empty. The lantern light began to flicker, and then went out completely. Elusive Figures. Jonathan ran out of the house, grabbing his journal. Coming to his senses, he opened it and found entries made in Old English. The translation revealed that the gang did indeed use keys to open portals. These portals led to the places where they stored the loot. It was then that Jonathan realized he was dealing with something supernatural. The looters who were plundering the city now might be using the same portals, but how could they be stopped? The last key. A week later there was a third robbery, this time at the museum. The police surrounded the building, but the robbers disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. The last key, the biggest of all, was left behind. Jonathan decided to take a chance. Using all the keys, he returned to the abandoned house and tried to open the portal. Light filled the room and a door appeared in front of him. Behind it was an emptiness filled with whispers that penetrated directly into his consciousness. He stepped in. The disappearance of the detective. After that, Jonathan Reeves was never seen again. The only thing left of him were his notebook entries detailing his findings. The robberies stopped, but every now and then, people report strange noises in the abandoned house. And on the floor among the dust, they find old keys covered in a green patina. Jonathan is said to have become part of that very legend. He is now a portal keeper himself, forever trapped between worlds. And the robbers? They may have found another way. Or it was the darkness that found them. Moral of the story: not all crimes can be explained by logic. Sometimes the darkness hides answers we're better off not knowing.